So here's another instalment in the Citroen Ami. You all know how much I love the car and I don't want to get rid of it. I think probably Citroen know I've done my best not to be a dick about this. I've had my fair share of them over the years, awkward customers, and I just don't want to be like that. I would have preferred to keep the Ami, but I don't want to be out of pocket. As a motor trader, if I sell this car in future, I have to declare what I know about the car, whether it's been in any accidents and anything detrimental I need to declare. That puts me in a very bad financial position, because if I tell a customer what I think about this car, which I have to by law, then nobody's going to buy it, so I'm stuck with it. So here we go with the Saga Part 50. Again, that's where I believe probably the original point of impact was on the car, and you can see the marks there on the door. They're all up there, where the door's been pushed in. But the worst bit, so that's the door, so it needs a new door. There's a crack inside there. The inner panels, I thought this was perhaps standard Citroen fitment, but you can see the inner panel there, that doesn't meet, and it's the same with that one, that's bowed out. Now these struts here, I can't get to the struts, that's enclosed without taking all this off, and probably without removing the front and the side. I've looked all underneath, and it's just a massive job, and I don't want to do it. And to be honest, I don't want Citroen to do it either, because I know they'll make a mess. That's nothing against the mechanics at Citroen at local garage, but mechanics can't do that, it's body shop. This is the worst bit. So it's not just the door that's damaged, it's the inside, all around the door frame. Now, if you look in there, you can see, hopefully, if I can just get that to focus. It's not focusing very well. But around here, look, you can see all that door there has been bent in. It's all marked there. It's marked in the corner. It's marked where the door's pushed against it here, up there. All that has been bent beyond its limit. So you can imagine what sort of impact it was, which is a good testament to the little Ami, really. But this is the giveaway here. This panel here, the front wing, has been bent. But you see there, that's how much it's been bent in by the look of it. That looks like where the impact has pushed it in and bent that forward. To be fair, the plastic's obviously sprung back, and again, it's a testament to the Citroen Ami. But it's not a testament to me paying £8,850 for a brand new car, getting this, and then treated like shit. I've offered Citroen 2 deals. One to compensate me, and one to take it back. I've got to say, they have been absolutely useless from the start. From ordering the vehicle to me reporting a fault and them just not doing anything, to me rejecting the vehicle and them still not doing anything. A new team has taken over and they're just as bad. In fact, I'd have to say the way they treat you is arrogant, complacent, ignorant, just not good. Now, in order to put you or draw a picture for you over the years, I've had a couple of customers, and one of my friends has had the worst customer. I'll tell you my customer first. Working on my own before me and John got together, working on my own. I had about 15 cars, a limited budget. It was probably 20 years ago, and it's before all these laws about 30 days and so on, faults. And chap bought, it was a beautiful car. Really, I only sold beautiful cars at the expense of profit, really. You know, the cheaper cars you sell, really, the more money you can make. If you go for proper examples, you've got to give good money for them, but you can't charge good money because people search for the cheapest on Auto Trader. So anyway, this chap came and bought it, and about a week, 10 days went by, and he rang me up and he said, I want to bring this car back. So I said, why? Well, you know, what's wrong? He says, there's nothing wrong with it. He says, my wife doesn't like it. So by which time I'd bought other cars and so on, and I'd advertised it, and you know, the logbook was now in this chap's name. There's another owner. It's just, you've got to go through all the valeting process again, and it's just too much expense. And I said, well, you know, to be fair, that's not really a reason for returning it. Sure, you know, if you want to part exchange it to something, then, but there's a cost implication. So anyway, I didn't hear anything from him for a week or so, and then I got a call off him. I want to bring this car back. So I said, well, we've already spoken about this. You know, oh no, there's something wrong with it. It's got a major fault. The head gasket's gone. So I said, okay, what makes you think the head gasket's gone? He says, there's oil in the water. That is one of the first signs of a head gasket going in, and it's a major sign. The head gasket, you've got your engine block, you've got your cylinder head. The head gasket goes between the cylinder head and the engine block. There's a water jacket around the engine block, and there's also oil feed pipes or oil feed channels around the engine block. They go from the engine block to the cylinder head, and a pump around the engine. The head gasket is kind of a flexible material. You can fasten it, clamp it, and it stops these things leaking. So, looks like the head gasket. Now, even though I was only a small dealer, I've got a reasonable, well, quite a very good mechanical knowledge because I've been in the job all my life, and B, I have all the proper tools. And there was a tool, a sniffer tool, and what you do, you put a chemical in a pipette, and then you suck the coolant out of the radiator. If the chemical turns blue, then it's detected combustion gases, basically. So you know that the gases have bypassed the gasket and they've got in the coolant. The reason I use that is because I open the radiator, and usually if the oil's in the water, you get like an emulsification, like a white sludge, and there was no sign of it. And the other indicator is if you take the dipstick out, sometimes again you can see sludge on the dipstick or drops of water. And again, so that's the oil. Sometimes the oil gets into the water, sometimes water gets into the oil, sometimes both. And there was neither. So I'd done the gas test. So I said to the chap, what makes you think the head gasket's gone? And he goes, oil in the water. So I said, well, where? He went, there. And I said, well, that's your windscreen washer bottle. And I took the top off the windscreen washer bottle, put my finger in it, and there was fresh oil. He'd obviously got no mechanical knowledge. He thought that was the
top-up reservoir for the radiator, and he'd poured fresh oil in there in order to pretend that the head gasket was gone, there was a major fault, and he was returning the car. So I told him to go and read his Haynes workshop manual before he tried anything like that in the future, and sent him away. To this day, I've never heard or seen of him again. Now that didn't really cost any money, and also, you know, we didn't do it. The car had been checked over before it went out. Our mechanics filled the water bottle up with detergent, not oil. And good old boy from the motor trade, Chris Smith. Well, he was one of my main enemies stroke competitors when I was selling Vauxhalls and Opals. He was at Fairways, the Vauxhall garage. I've known him 50 years. Anyway, so yeah, so that was it. He put it in the windscreen washer reservoir. My friend, he sold the 7 Series to a particularly nasty guy, and the chap wanted his money back. And again, there was no reason for it, just what we call buyer's remorse. He'd changed his mind, and there's no reason. And we use money, and you have to keep it turning over. Very seldom do car dealers, especially independent car dealers like me and my mate, have lots of money in the bank. Just doesn't happen. So he said no. Anyway, a few days later, this chap rang him up and he says, my engine's seized in this 7 Series, I want my money back. Which, you know, alarm bells go off straight away. He wants to return it, then all of a sudden it develops a major fault. You wouldn't believe how many times this happens to us in the motor trade. So my friend got the 7 Series recovered. He'd put a warranty on it. He reported it to the warranty company. The warranty company sent an inspector down. The inspector dismantled the engine and found out that there was no oil between the shells where they'd seized up. There was no oil whatsoever, it seized up. The oil in the engine hadn't overheated, it wasn't burnt. You can tell when oil's got too hot, you can tell. And he came to the conclusion that this person had drained the oil out of the engine, run it till it had seized, and then put the oil back in so that he could return it. It caused £10,000 worth of damage because I think that was more than the car was worth. So he wrote the car off because he didn't want it anymore, and he was prepared to put that cost onto a car dealer because he didn't want the car anymore. So that's it. So I'm mindful when I want to return something. I'm mindful of not being a dick like that. I discovered the problem. I thought it was stress at first. I reported it to Just Citroen, their their service manager, took photographs of the vehicle. He examined it, and that was 2-3 weeks after I'd bought the vehicle. I'd already reported it to Mark, the sales manager, by message and sent photos. So I'd done my bit, I'd reported it. By the end of the month, or coming towards the end of the month, for 30 days, I hadn't had any reply. I assumed Citroen were dragging the feet on the repair. And the more I thought about it, the more I realised I didn't want it repaired. This car was delayed to start off with. God knows where it was, but anyway, the car's since been ceramic coated. I know they'd stopped making the Vibe. The chances of getting a Vibe door, the chances of getting a door the same colour were just non-existent. And also the body shell. around the door frame has been damaged. That means all this tub that I'm sat in to make the job right needs replacing. I bought this electric vehicle to try and offset some of my carbon footprint. I've been running a Range Rover, you know, I'm not a virtue signaller. When I started, BC Cars was there in the corner, as luck would have it. As BC Cars, I sponsored a young lad in Ghana right throughout his school, up to his working, and I paid for loads of books, desks, goats, water, and stuff like that for this little village, and the school in Dangme West it was. The lad was called Bismarck. So I've always tried to do my bit. I try not to shout about it too much, but as I've mentioned in other videos, whenever I do something good, there's never somebody filming it. It just, you know, I just go on about my business. So I've tried to do this. I've tried to be good. I've bought this. I don't use my Range Rover anymore. I come to work and back in this. And it's brilliant. It's fantastic. Love it. But I'm not a mug. You know, I'm not somebody who will get fed up, who, if people ignore me, or for instance the Ami team, when I contacted them to reject it, they said you can't reject it, you've only got 14 days and it's after the 14 days. Now again, I've never researched this properly because I've never needed it. Certainly my customers have never needed it. Where if the car goes wrong with a major fault within the first 30 days, you have the right to reject the vehicle, and you also have the right not to give them the opportunity to repair it in the first 30 days. And you also get your full money back, no deductions. So as it got towards the end of the month, I could see what was going to happen. So I rejected it to cover myself. And as I say, they said I couldn't, but then I schooled him. Now, I've got this car. I've never received an invoice for it. I've never got any paperwork. So that's the other thing. There's certain laws that if you don't have the correct paperwork with the correct phrasing and disclaimer on it, you can reject a car up to 12 months, just for any reason whatsoever. You just don't like it, don't like the colour, you've seen something better, you can reject it. That's my understanding. I had a legitimate reason. However, Citroen dragging the feet. After the first month, they're entitled to deduct wear and tear off the vehicle. Other people have said, you know, if you're going to reject a vehicle, you should take it back to the dealership. It's not the dealership's problem, really. I don't want to be a dick. Just Citroen have been fantastic. When you go to Just Citroen, they've got, like us, they've hardly any room at all in the compound. They're chock-a-block with cars. You're just asking to get the car damaged again. I'm asking for them to get one of their cars damaged, to use up their space. So I've not done that. I've worked with them. I've asked them for £4,000 back. Now, my way of thinking, and if they give me £4,000 back, I'm not going to be jumping up and down. You're thinking, well, I'm doing a Mike Brewer. Oh, I've got the cheapest Citroen Ami ever. I've got a Citroen Ami that needs a new body shell. Now think about the new body shell. All this body shell is sealed. There's sealant all on the frame, keeping it in place, stopping it rattling, all down the sides. All this has got to come out. The front panel's off, the back panel. It don't bear thinking about. Just Citroen wouldn't be able to do that. A body shop, and I know very well, I've done stuff like this. I've done lots of body work. I'll cut a picture of my Opel GT in. I'm not just a car salesman. I've worked throughout everything, every aspect of the motor trade, from being a valeter to being the general manager, parts manager, sales manager, service manager. I've done mechanicking, I've done body work, I've done electrics, I've fitted sunroofs, alarms, dash cams, radios. You know, in the old days when I first started, cars didn't even used to come with door mirrors. You used to fit the door mirrors. You know, speakers weren't in. Cut holes in the door panels, fit the speakers in the back shelf, wire them all up, get them through. I've done water leaks. Water leaks, it basically involved taking everything out. You know, so that's my grounding. I do know what I'm talking about. I know values. I've sold cars all my life. I know values. I know what a write-off is. One particular car, Citroen Ami, was advertised last week, and in the small print it said it was cheap. In the small print it said it was a write-off. Somebody had tried to break in and they damaged the door lock. The insurance company, Citroen couldn't supply a door lock for however many months. The insurance company didn't want to pay out for a hire car until the door lock came, so they wrote the vehicle off. That's the owner's story. I find that a little hard to believe myself, but who knows. So he's selling it, and he's selling it cheap, and he's selling his for £6,000. I'd be left with a car. If they put a new shell on it, I've had it ceramic coating. To do the ceramic coating again, that's another £450, and the car just won't be right. This is done at the factory and sealed everywhere, all around here, and sometimes it still leaks a little bit. I just know, and even if I gave them the opportunity to repair it, I could still reject it after they repaired it. So you still maintain that right to reject it. So I just knew it was a non-starter. It would take months and months. I bought this car. I was kind of thinking about retiring, and I was kind of thinking about doing a me and mon ami, and just going different places in the car, videoing it around the UK, even to the extent of putting it on a trailer to take it to nice places and showing people who weren't in the UK the Ami and the beautiful parts of Scotland and all the other parts, Yorkshire and so on. There's some beautiful places. That was my idea. All that has gone to crap. I can't do anything on the car that cannot be taken off. This can be taken off, dash cam can be taken off, reversing cam and so on, all that can be taken off to return the vehicle. But I've got a Webasto heater there. I've got an affiliate deal with Webasto. The major fault, no, it's not a fault, the major drawback with the Ami is it's got no heater, and in the winter, condensation, snow and so on, it will make it hard work. I think this video with the Webasto heater, fitting it, I've got a place that offered to fit it for free for me, if I did a couple of videos for them, and all that would have been money which I will not get now. You know, that ship sailed. Somebody else has fitted a diesel heater. You know, I had this ready to fit. Tim, even Tim from Me and Mon Ami fitted one, and they're doing a great job of showing places in the south of France which are nicer and warmer than the places I was going to go in the UK. So all that's gone. The chap I've been dealing with recently at Citroen, the rejection process was starting in May, and then nothing happened. I emailed them and emailed, nothing happened. Eventually I found out that the team had been replaced with another one. And then I got an email off this chap, only because Mark at Just Citroen had rung them up and said, hey, what you doing? You know, this guy has got problems with his Citroen, you're making us look bad, can you deal with it? And that's what they did. They rung me. Then they emailed me to say, by this time I'd discovered that it wasn't stress cracks. Perhaps that threw them. Perhaps part of it's my fault. But it wasn't stress cracks. And I saw from the original photos, a couple of things rung alarm bells. When I checked the tyres on it, they were way too high. The number plates, somebody else's number plates had been on there. I'd had another chap call in the garage. He'd gone to pick up his Ami. It wasn't the one he ordered. He'd ordered the tonic, and it was just a base. Then he had all sorts of trouble. He tried to sort it out with Citroen, and he said they just treated him, you know, with disregard, complete disregard, and he cancelled it, and he's not got one. My Ami, some of the number plates had been on it, so it had two. So it must just have been chaos at the factory where they PDI them. They'd just not done it properly. So then I look back at the photos that I'd taken originally the day before I picked it up, and that somebody else had sent to me. And sure enough, when I zoomed in, I can see the marks. Me, stupid. All that experience, what do? I miss something like that. I was that excited to get it. Just a complete schoolboy error. And it shouldn't have happened. But anyway, it did. So they asked me to provide the video. Obviously didn't believe me that it was damaged before I picked it up and that I'd not noticed. And I sent them the 4K video showing this damage, showing the damage on the inside. They also asked for my reasoning why I wanted that amount of money back, and I told them. And then they asked me to take it in for an inspection. It's already had an inspection, and it's more and more delaying tactics. I want this matter over. I want it finished. I want to move on. I want to buy a Fiat Topolino if that's what I decide to do, or something else. Or keep this car and get on one fitting the heater. So then I sent them this, I sent them the videos, I sent them my video log, I sent them the videos that you lot watch. I sent them the whole list of how it was chronicled, how it was discovered, what the damage is, me checking it, me saying, you know, they should have been in touch with me, this could be serious damage, it could be dangerous damage, there could be a crack underneath, and yet they've done nothing about it, they've just left it, and ignored me. So they then asked me to take it back to Just Citroen for a complete diagnosis. So I said, right, enough's enough, continue. I've had enough, I've been patient. I want to reject the vehicle, I want to continue with the rejection. Nothing happened. I emailed and nothing happened. I emailed Mark again, poor Mark at Just Citroen, nothing to do with him. They just get a couple £100 for managing it, for, you know, putting up with me. Boy, have they earned their 250 quid. You know, and if you're watching Mark, I completely apologise. So I saw my arse. I'd had enough. I took legal advice, and they said, right, tell them that you're definitely rejecting it. Take the vehicle back to Just Citroen, wash your hands of it, and then we'll take over. Now, to do that, I'll have to take my private plate off. That'll be 120 quid. I'll have to take all this off. Roof, bearing in mind I've got the long extension for it, I've got the short extension lead, I've bought the sun visors, I've bought the catch to keep the door open, and a few other things. As I say, this sun blind, I think that was about 70 quid, another 70 or 80 quid for them, 120 quid for the Cherish transfer back to take it off, and then take it back to just Citroen and stick, you know, put it basically in their way to what effectively is to make a nuisance of myself. And perhaps fall out with them. Mark sent me an email straight away when I said what I was doing to say it's got to be insured. So, you know, keeping up the insurance. I've got this privately insured, not through my garage. So it's all cost. The cost of the insurance, 48 quid a month. I think it's 480 quid a year, so a bit less than that. And my money just sat there, doing nothing. Money that I could use, this 8,000. I could buy an £8,000 car, sell it next week, make £1,000, and keep going. So the money it's costing me, it's too much. It isn't fair. And they emailed me back again to say, are you aware, or we asked you for more information. They haven't asked me for more information. So I emailed back, what information? You've got everything. No answer. Emailed them again, still no answer. And I'd given them till the close of business on Thursday, the 10th of August, to either come up with a satisfactory solution, either promise me my money back or give me the £4,000 back. Never heard anything. I emailed them Friday to say, you know, that's disgraceful. It's now Sunday. I've not heard from them. If you're watching Citroen, you are a disgrace to the motor trade. That's all I can say. I love Citroen cars. I like old Citroen cars. I like this. You don't deserve any business. You don't deserve to have dealers like just Citroen. You're letting them down. You're letting your customers down. You come up with a great design, and I dread to think of how many people have rejected these cars, because the ones I've seen, and they're great. Yeah, they really are. They're fantastic. So I'll try and remember to cut some emails in the correspondence. May the 19th, they said they'd take it back, and then just ceased all correspondence. I've got better things to do with my time, unfortunately. I've got a main YouTube channel that's just surpassed 32 million views. And you perhaps might think, well, in this day and age, 32 million views isn't a lot. And it's perhaps not. But it's 32 million views of just our cars that have been for sale. Proper bread and butter cars. No clickbait headlines with me going, oh, and you know, none of that stuff. It's just me talking about cars. And it's evergreen stuff. It's stuff that doesn't get a massive amount of hits week one or day one. But I'm still getting hits on a car that I sold 15 years ago. So if I'm still getting payments on cars that I've sold today in 15 years, how old will I be? 80. That's my pension. This was going to be another string to my bow, the Citroen Ami channel, that I could build up, enjoy myself doing it, and be my pension, or part of my pension. Citroen have well and truly Munsoned me. So what I'd hope would be a happy channel and helpful channel and help me reduce my carbon footprint. You know, there's no point in me trying to reduce my carbon footprint and then taking this to Citroen to have all this plastic replaced. There's no need. If I had all the plastic replaced, there's nothing to say that I couldn't, after they'd done that, wasted all that money. And this is my thinking behind having the money back and not having it replaced. I could do that, have all that waste of time and money, go and park up on Starbucks, and somebody reverse into me, and I'm back in exactly the same position. But that's my thinking. I don't want to do that. I'm not a hypocrite. Let me put it this way, if somebody brought this car to me, or if I sold this car and somebody come back a couple of weeks later and said, you know, I've discovered this mark on the door, it could go deeper, I want you to replace all the body and the door. And bearing in mind, if they did replace the body and the door, I'd still have the front panel, the back panel, and this door, which would be the original and probably a completely different colour than the rest of it. It would look like a dog's dinner. If they brought it back to me, I would say, I'm sorry, but in all good conscience, I can't do that. It's a waste of money, and it's a waste of plastic. It's a waste of resources. I'll give you your money back, and I'll sell it to somebody else and tell them that's what's happened. I'll perhaps reduce it by a few £100. You know, but so long as they know, and if then they say, no, I don't want it because of that, I'll say fine and I'll keep it. That's what I do with this car. My plan is to keep it, not to sell it, although you know what motor traders are like. You get a good offer on something. I've said in other videos, I don't get attached to people, I don't get attached to cars. Probably the only thing I've ever really got attached to in my life is my dog Dino, my last dog Dino. And you know, if somebody offered me the opportunity to have my dog Dino back for a day, for 24 hours, and give this away, I wouldn't think for a second how the car would go. Money means nothing to me. Cars mean nothing to me. So I'm not trying to make money out of this situation. I'm not trying to be awkward. Just give me my money back. You know, you're not treating me fair. Give me my money back, and that'll be it. That'll be sorted. Oh, I won't be happy, but don't think for a second I'm just going to let you ignore me. Because if it means driving down to Citroen headquarters, in fact, now that's a plan. Rather than dump it on market just Citroen, let me find out where Citroen headquarters is, and I'll go and dump it on their car park. In fact, no, I won't do that, because then I'd be getting as bad as Just Stop Oil and things like that. So that's my next plan. Watch this space. I'm really sorry this channel has turned into a moan fest, because it was the last thing on my mind. I was really, really looking forward to getting it. So anyway, I'm going to go and get a coffee now and edit this video. Thanks for watching. And honestly, if you get one, they're brilliant. As long as you know it's going to be cold in the winter, they steam up, they do 28 mile an hour, you've got a range of 45 miles on the electric, but I would say, you know, you're going to be doing 35 mile and then recharging. I don't think I think I got it to 6 mile once, and you got the warning lights on. So don't think it's going to do any more than that. Don't buy it thinking you're going to have it chipped and you can do 50 mile an hour. It's not meant to do 50 mile an hour. It's not built to do 50 mile an hour. The tyres aren't made to stop you. The brakes aren't made to stop you from 50 mile an hour. And if you're on the road doing 30 miles an hour and there's a car coming the other way, your closing speed is 60 miles an hour. Your impact is going to be 60 miles an hour. If you're doing 50 mile an hour in this and you hit somebody else doing, you're dead, I think. Dead or severely injured. There you go. Right, on that happy note, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Ciao.